Hi, everyone. It's Roxanne Dorhodge of Authentic Living with Roxanne. Thanks again for tuning in this week. This week, I have two special guests, Gabriel Krenza and Robert Krenza, and they own BlackWolf Consultants, Inc. And we're all talking about transformational leadership, but I think it's something that even more so, there's need to discuss transformational leadership in this time, well before the last bit that we've been through. But even more so, I'm thinking that individually, collectively, as a person, or just whether you're a CEO or the person at the front of a company, everybody's looking for transformation and have for a while, but now it's come to bear that we're needing it. It's not a nice to have anymore, but we all need it. So let's talk about imagination. I hadn't thought about that. So I'm curious, because I know you do some pretty interesting things.
Yeah.
Just talk about the concept of imagination. So I'm a part of a senior leadership team. I know we're committed, but I'm not thinking imagination. So explain to me what that process is like, and what might you be doing to potentially start to introduce people. I'm going to think it's a bit at a time. It's not, all of a sudden they go from, one state into a playful state. How do you kind of start to introduce the concept of imagination in some of the things that you might do?
Yeah, I think that, imagination is the precursor to innovation, and everyone wants to innovate today. That's like such a hot topic, and how to disrupt in the market through innovation, and how to evolve products, and so usually that's kind of that's more of the selling catchphrase.
I'm going to put you're not going to do a search for creativity, but you're going to look for innovation or disruptors. Potentially, when people are coming to you, they might come with that perspective, and really at that point you're kind of going through the process, and they start to recognize that it's in fact getting to that creative space that will get them to achieve their goals.
Yeah, so one of the kind of services that I've put together and gotten to facilitate CEOs of massive companies around the world is, it's a day long, or it can be a couple days. Sometimes it can just be an afternoon activity that involves a lot of strategy, and it's almost like a geocaching exercise, if you're familiar with what that is.
A wee bit.
Kind of, it's like a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, because the kids, I'm going to age myself here, play that with Pokemon Go or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of,
that's my extent of it.
Well, then you kind of know, but yeah. What I'll do is I'll build a course, and it will be, it can be in a public park, it could be in a national forest. It can be in downtown Boulder. We've done them in downtown Boulder. And, there's all these kind of virtual and physical clues, and it's a game. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a game, but the activity really is a proxy for how these people work together. And it's, it's my generation. I'm a bit averse to team building. It's not a team building activity. It's a kind of culture building activity. And what really, at the end of the day, again, it's that proxy that parallels how they interact. And if you can distract them enough to think that it is a game, and they can let their walls down, and their true colors shine, so to speak, you get very fascinating things coming out. And one of the big topics of this, you kind of, if it's a team of 12, you'd break them up into small groups of 3 so that they have more opportunity to interact. And one of the major themes that comes out is what's the intersection between collaboration and competition. And so you get these, small teams of 3, and they all want to win, but you don't really define what winning is. The rules are very interpretable, and similar to the marketplace. There's different leverage points within the markets that are unseen. The rules are unwritten, right? Not all companies play by this code. The code needs to be defined. And so typically the after the activity, the after action review or the debrief is where major themes come out. But that imagination piece really comes into play because they get to define what winning looks like. And do they want to collaborate as one large group to kind of unlock the puzzle, so to speak? I mean, the course is huge. It can be 100 points of space. It's kind of like an expansive world.
Sounds like fun. It sounds like fun.
It's fun. Yeah, leadership it's leadership at play.
Yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't want to have fun at work? And I think that's oftentimes what's lacking, because it's like, let's do the SWOT analysis, let's do the internal, the external, and all those things. But what I hear here is that you're reaching somewhere within their space, and all roles aside, or you kind of understand how they deal with differences, or how they problem solve, or how their personalities would interact with each other. It sounds like a really fertile space, whatever that space gets defined as, like you said, for people to really drop their guard and come to some, probably a lot of realizations, I would think, as an overall team as well.
Yeah, I think I think one of the most heartbreaking, dichotomies or binaries in corporate culture is that you have to be two separate people. You're your work person, and you're the person when you're out of work. And I think that it's leading to a lot of upset and depression at work, and people, the idea of just not being able to be your true self, and imposter syndrome, because you're pretending. So this play and imagination sparking space, when people get to, and it's not your typical offsite where you're at a fancy hotel in some retreat room and then you share a meal together, and then go off to your separate rooms and do it again the next day. And how do you really share in a lived experience together, where work is not defining who you are, you get to define who you are.
Well, it sounds lovely. It's something I wish I had in corporate. I remember thinking, oh no, I have to go to that dinner again. Then I have to get dressed up in that theme thing, like for 4 days in a row. And you're thinking, how am I going to get through this? Something like this sounds like really refreshing. So let's talk about this sphere of services, because I want the listeners to understand you have executive coaching, you have CTLA. So I want you to define that, and where kind of Gabriel's, I'm saying Gabriel. Yeah. That's my Trinidadian accent. So you're going to have to forgive me for that.
That's okay.
And how it kind of fits in. Where do you, so Robert, I don't know if you can kind of give me or the listeners an aerial shot of the entire kind of, overview of the business.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
I'll do my best, and I'm sure that Gabriel will fill in. There's two parts of the BlackWolf business, right? There's the experiential side, which is primarily the outdoor process. And there's the experiential side in the indoor process. And CTLA is the experiential indoor process. So CTLA, Collaborative and Transformational Leadership Acceleration, stands on its own, but the collaborative and transformational leadership system includes a 360. I will say this to you. I have literally in my library, and I love my library, I love books, one book out of all of them that concisely and precisely talks about what transformation is. And the book is called Immunity to Change. It's written by Robert Keegan and Lisa Leahy, both Harvard business professors. And while it's great, they have written it through the lens of a professor. I think it's great. And it has given birth to the Leadership Circle profile, which is Bob Anderson's work. And it's the 360 instrument. And in my work, you are exposed to lots of 360 instruments. And the Leadership Circle profile is relatively new. And it's the only instrument that really is measuring competency and emotional reactive tendency. So all the other 360s that I've been exposed to measure strengths and weaknesses. Already, to Gabriel's point, already putting you into a dichotomy of separating who you are as a leader in the business and who you are as a husband or father at home. So the LCP really allows you, and the CTLA program, so CTLA plus LCP equals CTLS. Does that make sense? Right. So we're looking at a whole system by including the 360. And what we've done is, and you used the word time a little while ago. One of the things that I've come to understand and see and experience is that corporate leaders want it done quick and fast. And that's just not where transformation lives. Transformation does not live in quick and fast. Left neocortex, logical and linear, operates in quick and fast, but the rest of the intelligence systems, which are many that we are availed of, the left neocortex is logical and linear, the right neocortex is imaginative creative, the emotional brain, which has really been a Daniel Goleman work that has now been in existence for 15 years, the intuitional intelligence. You know, there's lots of studies that are being done. If I had followed my intuition, XYZ would have happened. And I'm talking all positive XYZs. And I think that one of the things that we neglect most significantly is the heart and the breath, and how important, important isn't the right word, how significant the heart and the breath is to all the other intelligences. So as we incorporate all of these intelligences, the arc of time, which of course is not a long time, but according to the corporate mind, it's a long time, which is a 12-month arc. And so this 12-month arc really requires, number one, it requires a commitment, and it requires a commitment to really be willing to, and I think Brene Brown has done a fantastic job here in her work around vulnerability, really letting yourself be vulnerable and understand, and I would say, and recreate yourself. You know, recreate yourself in what is meaningful to you. If you are a leader and your leadership is designed to inspire and motivate others, you can't inspire and motivate others unless you are inspired and motivated. So being inspired and motivated husband, father, leader, CEO, regional president, doesn't matter what your title is, you have to really be, and CTLA addresses all of them on a 12-month virtual process. So it doesn't require, and this is really where we begin to segue from Gabriel's work, which is also incredibly significant, but the pandemic really has put a kibosh, if you will, on the outdoor experiential work, and the CTLA work has been able to continue. And, the social media work, and Gabriel's an extraordinary writer, and writing around and using social media as a writing vehicle. And, another collaboration that Gabriel and I are in is writing the book. We don't have a title yet, but it's the transformational book of who am I is the first question. And the second question is, what is my contribution? So if you answer those two questions for yourself, your values, what are your values that resonate with your goals? and then who am I as a contribution, then the what is it that I'm doing really evolves or unfolds right out of that. Because you're a happy human being, you're a fulfilled human being. And
absolutely, absolutely. And it makes so much sense because as part of my book, what I talk about is, what's your leadership legacy? And I think of myself, right? So like I alluded to being born in a little island of Trinidad and Tobago, grew up in a little village, family of 6 running around bare feet in between the cane fields and playing with everybody and fishing but a real sense of community, right? But had seen some, disagreements in my family and wanted to always ensure, because I knew what it felt like not to have a voice, to allow others to always have a voice. So when I looked at why I do what I do, ultimately it was born out of that, which was, quite young. So, that whole connection, which, in corporate, they always say, now I think we're talking the different language, that just be yourself, but really, does it promote it? That one person coming into the corporate environment is the same person leaving and being the same person at home. And that hasn't been the case for a very, very long time. And like you said, transformation takes a long time, but a lot of companies want the one and done, right? Like with the talk or the half day or the workshop, so that they can create change. And we know that doesn't sustain real transformative change. Senior leaders listening to this, or boards or CEOs, and they're in trouble, right? They recognize that they need to make this commitment, but they're not so sure, because they're listening to us probably going, yeah, it sounds really nice and well. Where am I going to find the time? Yeah, maybe we have the money, but we're not so sure. Maybe they're kind of scared too, right? Because what are you talking about really with transformation? What would you say to them if you were on a phone call to them, Gabriel? They're calling you up. They want to talk to you about that, that fun adventure you talked about. What kind of things would you say to them? Or things that you might tell them to consider if they're going with a transformative program like your own?
Is what's your relationship with the word possibility? And what does possibility mean for you? So, that imagination piece is really a cornerstone to my work, but it can be averse. It can be something that people are averse to in their initial conversation. So I think one of the big ones that Robert and I use often is, what are you doing that's contributing to the problem you're complaining about? That usually creates some pause
or reverberation, I would think.
I'm sorry, what?
Or, just like when they kind of go, what do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not about me.
Yeah. And,
yeah, I like that.
They have that, like, I guess, okay, I hadn't thought of it like that. So, a lot of this work is thinking outside of the box to solve challenger problems in ways that have never been done before. And that's what play is. That's what creativity is. That's what improvisation is. And so the initial conversation typically is fairly fun and light. One of the services that BlackWolf also offers is executive leadership coaching. So it can often turn into a bit of a coaching type conversation where much of my work is in more of a facilitated format versus driving curriculum. So I'm always thinking of what's the next best question to ask. And I think questions are so powerful versus what's the next point I can make, or what can I tell you? So yeah, I think holding the space for reflection, simply put and respectfully, what do you want from me? If if you're talking about, leadership is so intangible, I can't pay you X number of dollars to get X segments of leadership, right? Transformation is, it's both a thing, but it's a concept. I can't be paid to transform you. There's a choice that needs to occur. So being very clear with what a client wants, and then being very upfront with, I'd love to be paid by you. I'd love to accept your money, but I don't think actually what you're asking for is something that I can provide. I can help guide you. I can facilitate the conversation that will open the door to discovery. But if you're looking through purely a transactional lens in approaching this work, then we may not be the right fit.
Makes a lot of sense. Robert, what would you say to someone if you were having a conversation about working with an organization like yourself? What kind of things might you say or have them consider?
And understanding the distinction between your experience and your return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that a lot of clients ask, their decision making revolves around not listening to someone's experience, even though it's going to address exactly what they're asking for. What they're trapped in is an ROI, or a return on investment, or financial. What's the financial return on the investment? So BlackWolf has brought on board a human being. There's a lot of ways that you classify this human being: account executive. We're choosing to use the language, the head of revenue and transformational growth for BlackWolf. So it's his expertise, his heart and his soul is really in integrity with the BlackWolf ethos of transformation. But his background and training, both as a Marine captain and then as a corporate executive, is financial. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying to you and to our clients is that the return on investment is significant. Mm-hmm. So when you look at, and we're in the process of writing a white paper that really quantifies what this return on investment is, if someone, and we're in the midst of the Great Resignation.
Absolutely. Yes, we are.
we are literally, there's cottage industries that are beginning with jeans jackets, and on the back is embroidered, "I quit my job." So there is, and we're not at the end of this. We're not even at the middle of it. We're at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And we have human beings around the planet who are saying, and this goes back to, this may be before your time actually, is the movie Network. And so the star of the movie Network, Albert Finney, is a newsman, and he screams in the movie, I'm what does it say? I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. So, the people who are resigning are mad as hell, and they're not going to take it anymore. They're not going to be treated like a thing. I came across a quote yesterday. We were writing it, and the quote was that middle management has a complaint, and it's not being listened to by the leader. Mm-hmm. And it's a universal experience that middle management and down is having. They're not being listened to. And so their choice is either be in an environment where they're not being listened to or leave. And they're like, this is the time, I'm leaving.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what that's my point is, the financial cost of having someone leave and replacing that person is 10 times what it costs to go through the transformational program of the leader and his team, or a group of leaders. Mm-hmm. And
absolutely.
So the 12-month arc really it's a $20,000 investment. Mm-hmm. And persons that are leaving, and you're training to come into that job, and your time lost on that job is $2 million.
Right, absolutely. So looking at the overall impact, yeah, versus just the financial. And the name of my new book is ROR, Return on Relationship, how authentic leaders can amplify resilience on their team. So I'm completely in line with what you're saying. And so it makes so much sense. It's looking at the impact of value alignments with what people are wanting in this day and age to stay connected to who they are, right? So if I'm Roxanne at work, I'm also Roxanne at home, and there's not much of a delineation between, because I am who I am. And I think that would be something I wish that was existing when I was in corporate 10 years ago, because I had to park one part of my brain in order to be an executive that was working with companies, across Canada. So,
right, Roxanne, I would say to you that is one of the phrases that I hear more than any other phrase.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that ... was available
Yes.
to me.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that experientially, I would love, I don't think this is going to happen soon, but I would love for people to talk to other people who they know,
Mm-hmm.
or who they know what role they have and that they're successful. Like and really listen to them and have that be part of the decision-making process, because it goes to I think, and based on my experience now, and I've got a lot of it, but I think that human beings want to be heard, they want to be happy, they want to be fulfilled. And this isn't my concept. This is when people finally go through the program and they're communicating what they were held back by,
Mm-hmm.
and what they were dissatisfied with, and what needed to transform, and coming to realize, this is the self-realization and the self-awareness part of raising their consciousness to they can choose.
Mm-hmm.
So they can choose to be happy. And if it's not going to happen in the organization, it can happen outside of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not going to happen with them staying, it's going to happen with them leaving. But my point is that you're not a victim of circumstances ever. That's part of the transformational process. You and I have both known people who have had the same accident, same horrific, traumatic accident, and one person is a victim and the other person is an inspiration, and they have exactly the same condition. Mm-hmm. Now, okay, so I don't think that both are true, because this disempowers you and disempowers you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So being an inspiration of whatever has occurred to you in your life is a much more self-satisfying, fulfilling way to lead one's life, rather than being a victim and who did what and what did who to, etc. All that craziness.
I know. So it's taking a hold of it and making sense of it. So this has been amazing. I've enjoyed this. And it sounds like something that many people are needing, first of all. And, the fun part of it, Gabriel, I think makes so much sense when, that interface between, we spend so much time with the people that we work with. I think of when I was in corporate for 15 years and I spent so much more time with them than I did my family at that time. And to be able to give that gift for people to recognize that maybe organizationally from a macro level, companies can make change so that they don't have to go through the bleeding out process of what the new resignation is it's gonna come for a lot of companies, unfortunately. So I thank you for your time, and now I want to know, where can they get a hold of you if you wanted to let us know? Robert, you were going to say something though. It looked like I cut you off there.
Roxanne, I'd love really to turn over to Gabriel a second and just have him kind of feed into this process. There's no end. So this is important to just say, Roxanne, there's no end to this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, we're just going to stop for a while. and, at some point, you and I are going to talk again, or you're going to start talking about what I just talked about.
Absolutely.
Well, I know,
agree.
I just can feel who you are. And so, Gabriel, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, I want to make sure that listeners know how to find us. So our website's www.blackwolfconsultants, plural.com, and BlackWolf Consultants on Instagram. We have a LinkedIn page as well. We're on Facebook. And then, just our email, the nomenclature is very simple. It's just first name dot last name at blackwolfconsultants.com. Yeah, it's an exciting time. I think that the global community is primed to explore what's possible. And I think that I use the word exciting in a positive light, because there's a lot of, also really challenging things that, we're working through. And, I'll forever be an environmentalist, and my heart bleeds deep green. And I think that much of that work and how we change our relationship with the planet and how we use resources really is a reframing concept, and solving problems with completely new ideas. So that's at its core, that's the work that I'm excited and inspired by.
Well, thank you again for your time. And what am I taking away? There's so many things I'm taking away.
Just hold on, Roxanne, one second. Let me just add. The color of the heart is green. I mean, literally, the color of the heart. When we look at the seven chakras, the heart is in the middle, and the seven chakras are the same colors as the rainbow. And the acronym for remembering the seven chakras is Roy G. Biv, right? Red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, violet.
The green heart is the fourth chakra, and green is that fourth color in the spectrum. And I resonate so deeply with that, because when you stand on top of a mountain and look out at some, amazing, beautiful expanse of green, for me, I always feel it. It hits me right in my core. I feel it right in my heart. So it's like it's a no-brainer. It's like when I learned that the heart chakra was green, I was like, oh yeah, of course it is. Duh.
You probably knew it all along.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But Roxanne, what are you taking away from this?
Well, I'm taking away so many things, but I think more so is, which is what I completely believe. I think back to who am I? And I think, we have a duty to help people reconnect to who they are. Because we talked developmentally a little bit about that transition, Robert, with what happens to a lot of people. And unfortunately, a lot of people disconnect in a way that allows them to not listen deep down inside to who they are and that authentic voice within themselves. So I think that's what I'm taking away. Like, you are there as a vein to allow the space for the person to get reconnected to who they are, and then really collectively, stay in the space of that unity as a whole. And with that space, when you're able to create that with someone, what a blessing that is to everybody that is in that environment, but also to the company as a whole. So again, thank you so much. I'm sure we will stay connected. I hope to maybe come up with an experience, one of your fun experiences there. And for any listeners, please reach out to either Gabriel or Robert if you're needing more. And for myself, if you're needing more information on authentic leadership with your teams, please reach out at roxannedurhodge.com. Okay, take care, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to Authentic Living with Roxanne, creating the space for positive, healthy change. Roxanne is a keynote speaker, psychotherapist, and coach. To work with Roxanne, visit roxannedurhodge.com/blueprint. We'll see you next time on Authentic Living with Roxanne.